hairs are a little too big.
Everything okay? Audio? Sounding fine. Okay.
Sounding fine.
Ready?
Mr. Allen, do you believe that there is a possibility the U.S. could be attacked by these Africanized killer bees?
Not possibility, likelihood.
What's the difference?
Well, possibility is a little far-fetched. Likelihood means it's almost certain to happen.
Is there an estimated time?
Yes, according to the Department of Agriculture, they tell us that the African killer bee will be here in approximately 2.5 years. That is, they kept telling us that up till a couple of months ago. Now they're saying, well, he may never get here, and if he gets here, it won't be too bad. I think they've gotten a little panic-stricken.
Are they doing anything about it, though?
Oh, yes, yes. They've worked very hard and very long over a period of years, almost 9 years since the African killer bee was first reported to have arrived in Brazil from Africa. There were 28 queen bees who were accidentally released into the backfields and backwoods of Brazil, mated with the very hardy strain of Brazilian honeybee, resulting in a mutant which is a killer. It'll kill anything and it'll attack anything. It's responsible for the destruction of some 200,000 head of cattle and several thousands of people. How many we really don't know. But what's important is that we do know that they're on their way north, that they travel at the rate of 207 miles a year, that they are scheduled to arrive, if nothing happens to them, sometime in the next 2.5 years. Now, a bee has a very short life, a matter of weeks, 6, 7, 8 weeks. Multiplication will show us that there are, from those 28 original bees, there are hundreds of billions of bees, and they constantly multiply and repeat, die out and repeat, and so on. And they're still coming at the rate of 207 miles a year.
Are there some areas that would be more vulnerable than other areas?
I think any area that has people in it will have the bees, and if the bees arrive, I think we're in a lot of trouble. Anyway, that's the subject matter of, you know, we didn't mention the movie, The Swarm, which opens on July the 14th in 1,400 theaters in the United States. You'd like to know the cast?
It's a fantastic cast with Academy Award winners, and I wanted to ask you, Mr. Allen, how could you get such a prestigious cast together?
I'll tell you exactly. I'll let you in on a secret after I tell your audience who's in the picture, if I may. Michael Caine, Catherine Ross, Richard Widmark, Richard Chamberlain, Olivia de Havilland, Ben Johnson, Lee Grant, Jose Ferrer, Patty Duke, Slim Pickens, Brad Dillman, Fred McMurray, and Henry Fonda. You know, making motion pictures is like being, in a strange way, in almost any other business. People work for a fixed salary. If they know they can get their salary, if they know they're going to enjoy being in that picture, if they know that the role that they're going to do is large and exciting, and if they know that the chances of being in a big successful movie are pretty good, this is how you get big casts.
They were all paid then the same salary?
No, not the same to each other. Their own regular ongoing salary.
And no one has a piece of the picture?
I didn't say that, and that's very private and very personal. And I'm not going to tell you.
I can guess, though, that maybe some do have a piece of the picture.
You guess.
Okay, okay. What is it like directing a picture where you have, you say, 22 million bees? I mean, directing a picture with any sort of animals is a risky thing and is a...
It's difficult, it's impossible, and I really didn't say 22 million. 22 million are the number of bees that we used in one day. Over the period of the 8.5 months that the picture was in production, we begged, borrowed, and bred more than 135 million bees, and we called on the highest day on better than 22 million. And it's not easy, but there are ways of controlling the bee through the use of a liquid smoke, through the use of the attraction of the queen bee secreted on the persons of people we want to have attacked. There are ways of making it work.
Were some of your actors particularly squeamish about this?
I would think that most of them were, outside of Henry Fonda, who, strangely enough, is a beekeeper in Beverly Hills. That is to say, he's a gentleman farmer beekeeper. He has his own hive, and Henry is a gardener, a very good gardener, raises a lot of vegetables and so on. So he was the only one who wasn't really squeamish. I would say everybody else was, and everybody was stung. Everybody in front of the camera, everybody behind the camera, everybody got stung.
There was one story that the bees had been capable of
You
stinging.
take a stinger out of a bee and you've got one dead bee on your hands. See, a bee stings and he goes off and he dies. So that wouldn't have been very practical. No, these were live, healthy, stinging bees.
What precautions did you take, because so many people are highly allergic to bee
I'm
stings?
going to tell you. To begin with, Lloyd's of London are our insurance carriers, and they cover all the pictures at Warner Brothers. In regard to our movie, they lay down some very strict and firm rules. To wit, everybody behind the camera, anybody on the set, except the actors in front of the camera during the time they were acting, had to wear the heavy canvas suits with the heavy netting. That really didn't help. They got under the netting, they got inside the suits, and they stung everybody. One cameraman and his assistant were very badly stung, and the cameraman wound up in the hospital. And that better be a lesson to you. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what have I not answered? I thought that was a four-part question.
You have made, of course, the Poseidon story and the towering inferno dealing with other catastrophes and crises. Was this one more difficult than either of those two, Mr. Allen?
Well, when you're making the picture, it seems like the toughest job you've ever been in your life. So each of them in turn seemed more difficult. I would think that water is reasonably controllable, that fire is almost controllable. The bees were the least controllable of all, and we had to improvise and be terribly inventive of how to make it work without countless, endless numbers of retakes. It was a very difficult movie to make.
This picture cost $12 million, is that right?
Just short of 20 million.
How
We
does
won't fool
that-
anybody.
How does that compare with Poseidon and Towering Inferno?
Well, Towering Inferno, which was made closer to this time than Poseidon was by a year and a half, cost $14,734,000 as opposed to just short of $12 million. So Towering cost a little more. Strangely enough, Poseidon Adventure, which was made about 5 years ago, well, the equivalent dollars now would be better than $15 million.
And which has been the more successful?
Well, Towering Inferno has been a little more successful than Poseidon, but it's pleasant to know that both Poseidon Adventure and Towering Inferno are among the 15 top box office hits of all time, according to the yearly Variety report.
Mr. Allen, do you have any feelings of responsibility about this picture, The Swarm? Because people do tend to get panicky about certain things that they see on film, and their imaginations are stimulated, and some people have more trouble than others touching reality. Do you feel any responsibility that
Certainly. My first responsibility is to make an entertaining motion picture. That's my first responsibility, and to give the public its money's worth. My second responsibility is to try my very best to make it a commercially successful movie, to return the money to the people who invested the millions of dollars. Otherwise, I'll never get to make pictures again, and they will have lost all their hard-earned money. By the way, before you get hundreds of letters from people who are going to say, doesn't Irwin Allen know that man has only been on the earth a million years? That's not true. Every year, someone discovered that man has been here a little longer and a little longer and a little longer. Eventually, they may discover that he's been here almost as long as you while I talk nonsense, so that you can use these as getaways.
Now, where do you want me to look?
Just look slightly to the left of him so that I can get a little bit
Okay.
of your profile. Good.
About to run out on this one.
We're doing all right. We're cooking here a little
Yeah,
bit.
no, but she wants to do some on camera,
Oh, okay.
which only Bobbie gets.
There it is.
Are you cutting? Yeah.
So you do.
I need to
Yeah.
match him a little.
Yeah.
Okay, we're rolling.
No motion picture made in one of us. Sidney Gannis told me last night. This is the greatest coverage Warner's has ever had of a motion picture. Do you know that there was a big article in
You just tell us when you feel like you've had enough.
with a headline, greatest exploitation.
Oh.
Yeah, just a whole careless spread.
Now, when we pull this one down,
But you see on the next picture, it may not even be too late
What
on
I'd
this
like to
picture,
do
we should
is-
go into Seattle. It's like, just
she's on it.
and bring
So let's mark this
everybody
one
into
as our
Seattle from a
short
500
end
mile
piece.
area.
Keep it loaded
And
behind.
do this.
And then let's
We
load
should
the
go
other
to
one. So
Chicago.
we have three full ones at all times. I always have one I pay. It's not so
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, now let me do a couple of questions. Okay,
Quiet, please.
These are questions, Bobbie?
these are questions,
All right, I'll
okay.
stay tight then, so look,
Okay.
all right.
Mr. Allen, do you actually believe that the U.S. is going to be attacked at some time by the killer bees? Mr. Allen, how do you go about directing millions of bees? Mr. Allen, you have done also the Poseidon story and the Towering Inferno, both disaster pictures. How does this one compare as far as price is concerned? Okay. Which was the more difficult of the pictures that you've made so far? Okay. Mr. Allen, you have a most prestigious cast in this film. You have 13 major stars, many of them Academy Award winners. Now, how do you pull together stars like this? Okay, that should do it.
Leah, would you